My name's Kurt Max Runte. I'm an actor in this film, SHADOWPLAY, that we brought from Vancouver at the Dances with Films Festival. Directed by Eddie Ashigan, who's also the writer as well. And yeah, it's shot by Michael Balfrey, who's an Emmy Award-winning DOP. And it's a beautiful film. And I'm very proud to be part of it.
There's a few companies that would pay millions to get their hands on the project before we launch.
David speaking.
And he has access to everything right now.
Look, I told you never to call me here.
He's divorced, renting a small apartment. Not much there. Definitely up to something.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
He's on the move. I think this is it.
Just stay with him.
Things will change for the better soon. I'm working on it.
Well, I think the food chain is very similar in Vancouver. It has become very similar to what it is here in LA. Many years ago, like in the 90s, making shows in Vancouver was different because the sort of nucleus of talent was much smaller, and it's expanded greatly as more crews have grown and more talent has arrived in Vancouver. You see the membership of our union has skyrocketed in the last 15 years. So it's interesting because you've basically got a very small group of casting directors that cast the productions, and yet a large group of actors. So it's not like there's a ton of casting directors operating things. There's a small group of casting directors sort of funneling the work out from there. Of course, it's always great when out of the blue you get a call from a director who's seen your work, or your name gets fed vis-a-vis through the food chain. In this particular instance, this was through a casting director in Vancouver, Tiffany Mack, and yeah, it was. I remember reading the script right off the bat. I was like, this is very interesting. It's got a lot of silence in it. It's not a rapid moving piece, and that for me as an actor, I like thoughtful cinema. I like thoughtful work. I like thoughtful art. So it that was a no-brainer when I saw the script. So, and I didn't know Eddie previous. So, well, the character that I play is his name is Sloan. He's a security officer for a high-tech corporation that basically suspects the selling of intellectual property, ideas for a software platform that's being designed. And I'm brought in to overlook whether or not it's one of the employees who's selling off the ideas. That's sort of the thrust of the film. And as the story goes on, you find out whether or not that's going on. I'm not going to give anything away, but that's sort of at the crux. That's at the heart of the story. Yeah, well, it's interesting because budget always. Whenever there's more money involved, there's a different sort of feeling on things on a set, from my experience. And in independent work, it's I feel there's more autonomy for an actor to basically flex their muscles, perhaps. And if it's, particularly when you're dealing with good writing. If you don't have good writing, you can have great acting with poor writing, but if you've got good acting paired with great writing, or great acting and great writing, it's, it's just that much easier to work in. And then you just, I don't know, I never felt working on SHADOWPLAY any stress at all. Eddie was a very encouraging director, and someone that basically really gave license to the work that I was bringing, for sure. So my preference is just to work on good work, to work on good writing. That's the bottom line. Anytime. I mean, that can be in a big budget film or a small budget film, of course. But for me, from my experience, I love independent film. I've done a lot of independent flicks, so there's always a different feel on set. It's a labor of love a lot of the time because in many instances some people are doing it basically for nothing. So I enjoy it because it really goes to the essence of acting for myself. I'm there because I really want to be there. I'm not there because primarily for the money, but I'm there because I'm being inspired, and I think that's really at the base of it, right? And I mean, in the instance of our film here, it was world-class production values in a low-budget film. I mean, when you look at the lighting in SHADOWPLAY, I remember when I walked on set the first day, first scene that I did was sort of in a conference room, and I walked in the room and it was like I looked at the lighting immediately and I went, okay, this is good lighting. I recognized it. It wasn't a wash with a bunch of bright lights. It was really moody, so I got very excited just from looking at the lighting. It's a real mixed bag. I mean, coming to this, Dances with Films is truly. I've been to a number of festivals before, and this festival really, to me, sort of captures the essence of an independent film festival, because it's not a flashy festival. The people that are attending it, and the films that I've seen, I mean, they're there for the film, and I thought that was really cool to see that. For myself, my preference as to why I come to a film festival, I'm here to represent my film. I'm very happy with the work that I did in this project. So yeah, and just to spend some time with the people that I did the film with and celebrate our product, and of course, when you do meet people who see your work as an actor, it's always very flattering when another independent-minded filmmaker or actor comes up and goes, "That was great work." That's the ultimate compliment, right? It's interesting where it's all where you figure into the story as an actor, right? And your representation of the product that you've participated in, the piece, your job continues after. I generally, from my experience, have I've gone off to openings and whatever else after signing collector's cards for films. Actually, yeah, I remember that. I do have a collector card of myself for Alien vs. Predator 2. So there you go. I have a card floating around in the ether sphere out there of myself, which was kind of fun to sign off those kind of cards. So, but that's a real complete contrast to working on something like this, But in that instance, it was great because it was a film that the aliens. Factory, I guess you could say, was something I got to participate in, and it was very cool because the directors that I worked with basically at the end of the project shook my hands and said, well, you're a part of an elite group of actors that have been face hugged and chest bursted. So I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Technology. Well, that's very interesting because that's something that it's not that I'm a Luddite, but I am someone that I fly under the radar, quite frankly, when it comes to promotion. And I've always been kind of an actor that I arrive and I do the work. And then for the most part, I let it sort of speak for itself. So I can't really say that I've engaged in social media, much to the chagrin of my agent in some instances, but I do have good representation, and they seem to do the proper things. It's very interesting because Vancouver versus Los Angeles, there's a much different relationship to publicity, and the publicist doesn't exist as much in Vancouver as it does in the Los Angeles scene. So it's just a different sort of promotions of things, right? I studied, actually I'm a theater actor first and foremost, and I went to the University of Victoria, studied theater. I worked primarily in theater for about 5 years after graduating, and then I ended up in the industry, and fortunately, right from the get-go, I was cast in very good parts, guest starring and supporting roles. So it's not like, well, I did pay my dues in theater, right? Like I worked extremely hard as an actor, and it's not like I sat on my butt, But I didn't, quite frankly, I did not get into acting to work in film or TV. I primarily got into it for the theater. Most definitely, yeah. Most definitely. I think, having that kind of a background, it allows you to even polish things more so when you get the opportunity to do a few more takes. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I like to bring as many different variables to the shooting process. So when it does get into the editing room, there's lots to play with. And yeah, but that being said, it's very interesting because I've worked with some young actors who have very little and no training, and they're fantastic. So there's two sides of the coin, and it's generally, I find, up to that person's preference as to what works best for them. But for myself, definitely having a background in the theater has been a real boon to my work, I find. Well, I have seen, I have had some contemporaries that I've seen, definitely go through a metamorphosis, and they entered the industry at a quite a young age, and they're in a very different place now. I can't really say that, I've played father to young actors who now, I look at them now and I see where their trajectory of their careers are going. It's very interesting to see someone who played my son 10 years ago, where they're at now. It's like they were 7 then, now they're 17, and they're playing, supporting roles in major films, right? So, or leads. So it's interesting to see. I can't really comment as to whether or not I've seen an alter in their work, but I've definitely seen it in some of my contemporaries' work. And it's a very interesting thing because it's all in how people deal with it, right? And as to what degree you are your responsibility in a picture or a television show for that matter. I think that yeah, it's all in how you deal with it. I prefer to be as stretched as far as possible, and I like a good challenge. I did a sort of a low-budget sci-fi thing a few years ago called Polar Storm, where I played a Russian submarine captain, and I learned Russian for it. And it was that I like that kind of work because there's a sense of theatricality to it, but it's also steeped in doing your homework. Because if you really got to bring the cards to the table in that instance, otherwise you're going to fall on your face, and that. I like to be prepared. I mean, I'm a monster for preparedness. So, and I like to be challenged, And it's and the thing about it, the wonderful thing about acting is you're always learning. You're always if you have the opportunity, you're always upping your game. So I mean, knock on wood, I have the opportunities for the most part to do that. So fortunately, I'm still here, chugging away at it and trying new things. So, but for me as an actor, that's really what drives me, right? That fresh ideas and fresh concepts. I really felt a personal sort of touch on Dances with Films. Like there's a connectedness between the, I guess you would call the artistic directorship of the festival and the artists. It's very, it's pretty grassroots, and I like that because it's. I think the thing is with a lot of the bigger festivals is there's a lot going on in the bigger festivals from my experience, where there's just so much going on, and it's like it can be a bit overwhelming, right? And I like a personal touch, right? And I felt that right from the beginning, right from the first day I was here, first night I was here for our screening and stuff. So. Yeah, it was it was really great to have a full room to see our film. Like I've seen the film basically in a full room of people before, and their responses to it. This is I like this kind of an audience because it's, I mean, there are a lot of film people involved in it as well, but it's more of an objective audience because, for the most part, these people, outside of the five of us that were here from Vancouver, the majority of the house is from here or from across the States or maybe from Europe, you know, so.